Namo Buddhaya. You know what? Today we are going to have a storm to our monastery, right? It's a big storm incoming. And the sky is getting gloomy and gloomy little by little. But you know what? Few hours ago, the whole monastery was shining and it was bathed with sunlight, right? So the weather changes so rapidly, the nature changes so rapidly. So as our life. In life, some days we have storms, right? Sometimes we are very happy. Sometimes we celebrate our life like shiny days, right? Like sunny days. But sometimes it becomes gloomy. All of a sudden it becomes gloomy. It becomes so moody, right? So we feel down, we feel terrible, like we feel depressed, right? And for some days, there's nothing special, like the empty sky, right? So this is life. It always changes, okay? So today, I'm going to talk about this one habit that we all have been through and that can affect us in many ways in our life, and that is the habit of overthinking, right? You know, we all have been through that situation that we have overanalyzed situations and we have expected worst case scenarios and we have kept on thinking about certain things, what will happen in the future, what has happened in the past. That is very painful, and it steals our peacefulness in our life. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you few tips that can manage the habit of overthinking and to stop the habit of overthinking. So let's dive into the video. So the first thing that we have to know before doing any kind of thing is to identify what triggers you, what makes you overthink, right? Because without identifying and without knowing what makes you overthink, you cannot deal with it, you cannot manage it, right? So for people, it may be different ways of triggers. Sometimes people have some fears about talking with other people, right? People have fears about like traveling alone, right? Sometimes people have a fear about what other people think of me, okay? So it is different from one person to another. So the first thing is to identify what makes you overthink, what triggers you. Once you know it, write it down on a paper, okay? This is what makes me overthink. This is what making me troubles, okay? That is the first step, identifying what triggers you to overthink. And then the next step, the second step is to be mindful about that trigger and that emotion, okay? Because once you identify your trigger, right, what makes you overthink, you can be mindful about it. You can identify it. Once those thoughts comes to your mind, like maybe a fear, maybe like a worry, maybe like a sadness, when it comes to your mind, just if you practice this mindfulness, you can catch that thought. You can identify that thought. Now I'm going to worry. Now I'm worrying, right? Now I have this fear in my mind. Because when you become mindful, you understand about it and you know about it, you become aware of it. Then you will have the power to control it, right? Always remember, you cannot control anything that you don't know about and you're not aware about, right? So the second thing is to be aware and to be mindful about your thought. This is one thing that stuck in my mind for a long time, that a thought is just a thought until we give the power to control it ourselves. Okay, so what we have to know, understand the thought as just a thought, right? Don't give the power to control it, right? Don't judge the thought. Don't try to stop the thought, right? Just identify it as just a simple thought, as any other thought. Okay, that is the second step. And the third step, you can challenge yourself. You can challenge your mind. Ask from your mind. Whenever you catch yourself overthinking, ask from your mind, is this real? Am I worrying about a real thing or a realistic thing? Is that going to happen in reality? So when you think about that, you will come across these conclusions. No, it's not going to happen. Why am I worrying about it? Right? Why am I thinking about it? I don't want to do that, right? It will steal my peacefulness. Okay? So when you think like that, you know what is going inside your mind. So the whole point and the whole secret about stopping this overthinking pattern is to know what is going inside your mind. Okay? That is one thing that you can do to challenge your thoughts. And then the next step is to take action. There is no any other remedy for all these problems, all these mental restrictions that you have in your mind other than taking actions. Okay? I don't suggest you to take big actions. What you have to do is to take small step, to do little things that you feel like a fear and a worry about things. Okay? Just go for it and take action. If you have a fear of talking with a person, just for a little time go and talk with him. Plan it and go and talk with him. If you have a fear of traveling alone, just try it a little bit. Okay? It will make you more confident about it. So the fourth step is to take action. Okay? And then the final step. If you feel like your overthinking pattern, your habit is troubling you and it is restricting you and it is holding you back from doing great things and becoming great, then you have to seek for help, right? Remember, you don't have to travel this journey alone. You have to seek for the help from trusted people. It may be your trusted friend, it may be one of your family friends, maybe one of your relations, maybe your parents, maybe a counselor. Seek for help, right? Don't be shy and don't be afraid to ask for help and to reveal what is going inside your mind. When you reveal yourself and when you seek for the help, always there are people who can help you. Okay, so you are not alone in this world. Even 73%, you know that 73% of the young people in the age range of 25 to 35 suffer from chronic overthinking. So you are not alone in this world. Okay, so what we have to do is to first thing to identify what triggers you, second thing to be mindful, and then to challenge your thoughts and take action. And if all those things does not work, seek for the help, and always the help will be given to you. So these are the few things and the little things that you can practice in your life to overcome the pattern and the habit of overthinking. So I wish all the best in your journey of overcoming the overthinking patterns and living a life more productive and more happy. Namo Buddhaya. Why most of the students feel sleepy while they are studying? Now this has been a huge problem for all the students who are studying, including myself. I still can remember when I was at school, I used to fall asleep right after I get a book to my hand. Do you have the same experience? I think yes. Well, today in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 tips you can practice to stay away from sleepiness while studying. So the same thing happened to a monk who lived in the Buddha's time. He was struggling with meditation, especially he was struggling with the sleepiness during meditation. So the Buddha gave him these 7 advices and 7 tips to practice to stay away from the sleepiness during the meditation. But these tips can be applied to our studies as well. So without any further ado, let's dive into these tips. Tip number 1, change the perception. Sometimes the reason for our sleepiness is not where we study or when we study, but what we study, right? Sometimes the meditation that we are doing, maybe the subject that we are studying is not vibing along with our mind. At that time, we feel boring and less interested. Once you feel boring, what is the normal reaction from your body? You feel sleepy, right? You feel the drowsiness within you. That is why the Buddha says, change the perception. Once you feel sleepy while studying or meditating, just change the perception. Change what you study for a little while. Let's say you're studying a subject and you feel boring, okay? You feel less interested. So what do you have to do? Change it to something that you feel interesting. Maybe a subject that you feel fun in studying, maybe you enjoy that subject, maybe it is your favorite subject, maybe it is your favorite meditation, okay? Once you do that, what happens to you is you're doing something that is enjoyable and enthusiastic. You feel that enthusiasm within you. Then your body and your mind becomes active. Okay? Once your body and mind becomes active, what will happen? Your mind will open to new things. Okay? So when you spend a little while in that enthusiastic activity, maybe studying, maybe meditating, okay? Then you can come back to the same thing that you studied earlier and keep on studying, because at that time we gave our mind a little jump start to be active. Tip number 2, memorize it. The Buddha says, recall what you have studied and memorize it and examine it with your mind. When you examine something with your mind, when you recall something from your mind and you wisely reflect on it, what happens? Your mind becomes active. Okay, because you need that focus and you need that activeness in your mind to memorize it. Once you memorize it, what will happen? You stay away from that inactiveness or inactive state of your mind. Then it will help you to stay away from the sleepiness. So what you have to do, whenever you feel sleepy or drowsy, just memorize one thing that you have learned or recall something that you have learned. That is one thing that we can do. Tip number 3, reciting. Now, reciting is one of the best ways to stay away from sleepiness during meditation and studying. Okay? Now, when you recite something or when you say something out loud, it activates your jaw muscles and your mouth. And also, when you recite something, you create those vibrations in your skull and it activates your brain. Okay, once your brain and your muscles are active, your jaw muscles are active, you feel some energy within your head. Okay, and then it will be very easy for you to study. And also, when you recite something, it gives that activeness to your body, and then it will help you to stay away from the sleepiness. That is tip number 3. Tip number 4, the Buddha says, pinch your ears and rub your limbs. Now, when you pinch your ears and rub your limbs, what happens is, your muscles get a good blood circulation and your body becomes active. Once your body becomes active, then your mind becomes active. Then you will be less sleepy and you can stay away from sleepiness by doing this. So this is something that very simple that you can do to stay away from sleepiness. Tip number 5, the Buddha says, get up from your seat and wash your eyes with cold water and look at the night sky. Especially if you're studying at night, maybe you're meditating at night, right? If you feel sleepy, you can go outside and look at the night sky. Enjoy the nature, enjoy that breeze. Okay? Once you stay in the nature for a little while, you feel so much refreshed. And then you can come back to studying and meditation and keep on doing it. So nature can make our body so much refreshed. Keep that in your mind. Tip number 6, the Buddha says, focus on the perception of light. Now, most of the time, when we are studying at night, the reason for our sleepiness is the surrounding. Okay? Sometimes some people used to study in a dark room, maybe in the darkness, okay, while having a little light on them. Okay, the reason for our sleepiness can be the darkness around us, because when the darkness surrounds us, we feel like sleeping because it stimulates our sleepiness. Okay, because we used to sleep in the darkness, and then when there is darkness around us, it triggers our sleepiness. So what the Buddha says is, just when you study, focus on something that is very bright. Okay, focus your mind on something that is very bright and think that you are studying. Imagine that you are studying in the daytime. Okay, when you're studying, always try to study under a good light source. And also you can imagine to yourself that I am studying in the daytime. Okay, when you imagine it and when you have that perception of light in your mind, then you will feel less sleepy. Okay, so that is one thing that we can do to focus on the perception of light. And we have come to the final and the seventh tip, and that is, the Buddha says, do walking meditation. Whenever you are meditating, okay, or when you are studying, if you feel sleepy, if you feel drowsy, just get up from the seat and go and walk back and forth with mindfulness. Okay, focus on your bodily postures and bodily movements and go walk back and forth for a little while. Okay, it will activate your body as well as it will activate your mind, because we need a good focus to be mindful. Okay, once the mind becomes mindful, it activates our mind. So that is one way that we can stay away from sleepiness, to do the walking meditation. So as students, you all can do these things. Let's say you tried all of these 7 tips and none of them worked for you. Okay, you still feel sleepy. Then what we can do? The Buddha says, if none of them worked for you, that means you really need a sleep. Okay, so that is why the Buddha says, then you can go to bed mindfully. Okay, being mindful about the posture that you are going to sleep, and you have to remember to yourself that right at this time, okay, maybe after 1 hour, I'm going to wake up. Okay, when you do that, when you remember to yourself that the wake up time, then it is very easy for you to wake up. And also remember, most of the time, the students enjoy sleeping, okay, more than studying. Okay, it is all about our priorities. When we give the priority to study, we can easily study. When we give the priority in our mind to sleep more than studying, then you feel more and more sleepy. So that is why it is all about what you give priority to. Okay, so remember, so if none of those 7 tips worked for you, just have some rest and then go back to studies or meditating. So these are the things that we can apply to our daily life to stay away from sleepiness during studying and also during meditating. So apply these things and see what works for you. Namo Buddhaya.